Good morning. We are Team Hydra and I am Harish, the team leader of this project. Today we are presenting our solution Secure Bharat, a multilingual AI-powered assistant designed to understand Indian government documents and answer citizens in their own native language. So our system uses a RAG-based architecture combined with ServomAI for Indian languages understanding and Gemini for intelligent response generation. So here you are seeing the interface of this our project. Now our project is mainly for government documents. Here many citizens face to understand the government documents. Here you are seeing the upload document where you can upload document. Suppose I have a document, Hindi document, and which is completely written on Hindi languages. Now if you want to ask any questions regarding these documents, you can just upload the document, and once we upload it, it will show that our document has been uploaded successfully. Now based on that document we can ask any questions. Now the questions I may ask is it good to purchase this land? Now when we send this to our project, it starts thinking and it will generate in the English language. Suppose if a user asks it in a different language, then our project can communicate with us in a different language what the user wants. Now I have not mentioned any language, so it has given this in simple English language. Suppose if you want these questions to be asked in any Indian language, I ask in Hindi. The Hindi language I can ask is इस डॉक्यूमेंट को समराइज करके बोलो. Yeah, now like you can even ask anything in Hindi language. Suppose if you want to ask summarize also in Hindi and document also in Hindi, you can ask. Just when we click on this, then our project starts to generate answer in Hindi language itself. Suppose if you ask a question in Hindi language but we want the answer to be in English, you can say it in a prompt, but say this in English. Now suppose if you want that to ask in Hindi language only, then we can just type an question, but इसको इंग्लिश में बोलो. It's not only about Hindi, English. We can ask any Indian language with their own fluent. Basically, our Indian languages, local languages, follow as their own cultural languages. So you can ask these questions in any cultural languages. So now on the left side, as you can see, when the user clicks new conversations and it completely becomes a new chat interface, and these are the threads. Based on this thread we can go to that particular conversation which we have discussed earlier. So it is completely long-term persistent memory where the conversation never gets deleted or forget. So based on the user, whatever the user will be uploaded document in that particular ID. Suppose in this particular thread ID we have uploaded the land documents, and those land documents get stored in the vector in the thread database. So as you can see here in the thread database, the related document content are getting stored based on that user ID and based on that thread ID. On the thread ID 19 we have stored that document, and the conversations, whatever the conversations we have discussed throughout the those all conversations are being stored in these databases. So when user comes and clicks on that particular chat, all the conversation gets loaded back, and when user asks questions, anything he wants that he has asked previously, based on that questions the model is going to answer accurately. Now I will just explain through the diagram. So yeah, these are all the old messages, old conversation chats, and this is the model. We are using it for summary, to generate summary. So we need to make summary of the old messages to avoid from the context window length. For each model there will be input context window length. So based on that we are going to avoid when the conversations becomes too long, we are going to make it summary of that conversations, and last n messages we are going to keep those last n messages, and with summary of the old conversations both combined we are going to send it to the model, where the model generates accurate answers. It gives accurate responses based on user questions. Now let me show how the backend works. So here we can upload the document. As I said, the document we are uploaded will be containing based on user ID and thread ID to provide securely and to store those documents securely and provide security for each user. So user will be having their particular user ID. Suppose I may create the user ID as Bharat 1, and for that there may be many threads. So let's say for Bharat 1 user ID, we'll be having thread 1. So it's a new conversation for this user, ID. So then when we are given user ID and thread ID, based on that we can upload any documents. The documents may be one or many. Now let's upload the same land documents. Yeah, now we uploaded the land document. Once we uploaded the land document, and those land documents content and those vectors are stored in the vector database. As you can see, here is the vector store. We have used faz vector store, where we can store the vectors and based on that user ID. Now user ID we have given here is Bharat 1. When I click on execute, yeah, it has generated the response. Like it has stored user ID as Bharat 1, thread ID as thread 1, and for as the user ID in that, as the user ID may have many threads, for each thread for each thread we may have many document ID. So for that the document ID is also generated. So based on that document only we can ask any questions, and the file name we uploaded is the land documents, and the language detected is Hindi. So we need to translate that. So here translated is true. So based on these land documents we have made it three chunks. Now you can see the based on that user ID and based on the thread ID, it has stored that document vectors and metadata of that vectors. So whenever user again wants to ask questions based on that conversations, he should not upload again and again the same documents. He can just ask questions. Now I have uploaded this document only once, and I can ask questions based on that user ID and based on that thread ID, and questions may be as I said, based on one thread ID, there may be in different documents. So if you want to ask based on that particular document ID, the user may ask, and it is all working on the front end. So I'm just going to show the how the backend is actually working, how the security, how documents are securely stored for the particular user ID. So here it gives us security for each user to store their documents and securely ask questions and get responses.
Move on to the deployment phase. Our application is deployed on AWS EC2 cloud infrastructure, which allows our AI system to run online and be accessible through an public IP address. So this is our public IP address where our application is running. We launched an EC2 instance and configured the necessary security groups. Now, if you move on to the security groups, we have configured the necessary security groups to allow traffic on specific ports. The fast API backend is running on port number 8000. Now let me show. This is where our application backend is running on the port 8000. In this backend, as I have said before, where you can try it out, and we can type here an user ID and thread ID, which can be a unique. So our application is going to take an unique user ID and thread ID. Then you can choose any file you want to upload. Then you click on execute. Now let me show. Suppose here I have given an user ID as user1. Now I will give a thread ID as thread1. And based on this user ID and thread ID, you can upload any. You can upload documents, one or many. Now let me just upload the same document, which is an land document. When you click on the execute, the documents gets uploaded based on that user ID and thread ID. So as you can see here, it has generated a document ID. So as we can upload many documents, so based on that the document ID will be generated, and chunks added is 3, and you can look at the response. It has just took 2 seconds to give the response. Now we can ask questions, any questions based on that user ID and thread ID, and you can ask any questions in any languages. It is going to give the answer. Now let me show where our front end is running, and the front end is built using Streamlit and runs on port 8501, providing a simple interface where user can upload government documents and ask a question in any Indian languages. When a user uploads a government document, the system first processes it, translates it to English using ServoMI, and then splits the text into smaller chunks. These chunks are converted into embeddings and stored in a phase vector database, while user and thread information is stored using SQLite. When a user asks any questions, the question is again translated using ServoMI, converted into embeddings, and used to retrieve the most relevant document information from phase. This retrieved context along with the user question is then sent to Google Gemini 2.5 Flash, which generates the final response based on user questions. So this is our project. Thank you.